Bills Mafia, Bills Mafia, we the Mafia, we the Mafia, Bills Mafia, Bills Mafia, we the Mafia, Bills Mafia, Bills Mafia, we the Mafia, Bills Mafia, Bills Mafia.
You know who the beats in the AFC East? We gon' grind this thing out for 17 weeks, yeah. You hating on the Bills, then you way off. Talk is cheap, meet us in the playoffs. Game day, you know we going off. Got your team captain shaking at the coin toss. We say Mafia, that means family to me, cause we stand with the team, best fans in the league.
Hello, my name is Andrew Peachy, and I would like to welcome you to the Circling the Wagons podcast. This is a podcast where we talk all things Buffalo Bills. And as you know, we're deep into the 2022 season. It is currently week 7, which is the bye week for our beloved Buffalo Bills. And usually we would take the bye week to talk, moves the team could make, different stuff, this and that. But we are actually starting a new and exciting series to kick off our 100th episode. And this series is going to be a 4-part series detailing the 4 AFC championship seasons of the Bills from 90 to 93. And I'm very excited about it. Some are already thinking, you mean 4 straight Super Bowl losses? No, I said what I said. We're going to go through it. We're going to get into it. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. And let's go. The historic Bills playoff run that took place from 90 to 93 actually begins in 1989 with a team that Vic Carucci, a sports writer from Buffalo, deemed the Bickering Bills. They were called this because quarterback Jim Kelly was constantly in post-game interviews calling out different players where he disagreed with their performance, and it led to Thurman Thomas actually calling out Jim Kelly and saying, "Hey man, sit down, shut up, think about yourself." Both players were called to apologize in front of the media, and it was a real turning point for the Bills to tell these players to put your egos aside and let's start playing together as a team, and that's what they did. They went on to finish the season 9-7. They won the AFC East division, and they went on their first playoff run. They lost to the Cleveland Browns 44-34 in the divisional round. That is also where they discovered the K-Gun offense, which was a no-huddle offense designed by these 1990 Bills, and it's what made them so iconic and so dominant. I would like to cite that all of the statistical references that are being made throughout this podcast are found either on footballreference.com, or you can find lots of information through the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary, The Four Falls of Buffalo. And with that, we now step into 1990. This was a new decade and a new era for the Buffalo Bills. Coach Mark Levy had decided that the K-Gun offense was the best offense for the Bills to run full-time, and that's exactly what they did. They used this offense to confuse and overpower defenses, causing them to switch players in and out and have to run very basic plays just to catch their breath. This offense was extremely successful under quarterback Jim Kelly with the weapons of wide receivers Andre Reed, James Lofton, Don Beebe, running back Thurman Thomas, and center Kent Hull. It was known that each of these players was extremely intelligent and extremely fast, and they used both these factors all the time to dominate opposing defenses. This also partnered with an extremely tough Buffalo defense centered around Bruce Smith, made a statement going into the 1990 season. They finished the season 13-3, claiming the AFC East, and won big games against the Giants on the road and the Broncos during Monday Night Football. And with the end of the regular season, the Bills were set to make a playoff run. The Bills were matched up against the division rival Miami Dolphins for the AFC divisional round. This game was a Buffalo classic, 31 degrees with snow coming down, and these two teams put on a show. The final was 44-34 in favor of the Bills, and the first big victory with a long road ahead. The 1990 AFC Championship was also a shootout, similar to the AFC Divisional Round, but different from the Divisional Round. It was only a shootout for one team. The Bills put up 51 points. The Raiders were having to call a timeout after the very first drive. I mean, they did not match up against this K-Gun offense. The Bills were shooting all over the field with quick passes. The Bills' defense was extremely stout, getting constant pressure receiver that forced 5 interceptions against quarterback Jay Schroeder. And moments like this are exactly why I wanted to talk about this podcast. These are the moments that are forgotten in the midst of people only wanting to talk about the 4 Super Bowl losses, only focusing on the 4 Super Bowl losses. That's not all that happened in the 90s for the Bills. The AFC ran through Buffalo, and this is a perfect example. You don't see teams winning AFC championships 51-3, but that's exactly what this extremely strong, extremely tough Buffalo Bills team did. Now, after an extremely successful regular season and a dominant AFC championship performance, the Bills headed down to Tampa, Florida, leaving cold Buffalo and heading down into some sunny, nice weather. And they took full advantage of this. They enjoyed the nightlife of Tampa. They went out and partied, and they probably did that a little bit too much. And when it came down, the party stopped, and it was time to play. It was time to get to Super Bowl 25 and play against the New York Giants, coached by Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick. Now, to set the stage, Super Bowl 25 was right in the midst of the Gulf War. And so for this, they had threats that were made towards the Super Bowl. So they had an immense amount of security. They even had helicopters with guns hanging off of the sides, hovering over the field. It was absolutely huge. Everyone in the country could feel the energy of this game. The stage was set, and Whitney Houston sang what is said to be one of the most beautiful national anthems of all time. Grown men cried, and with the war times and the threats being made and the level of security, there was an immense amount of pride, and it was the grandest stage for the biggest championship in American sports. Going into this game, the Bills looked like the clear favorites. They were a 7-point favorite in Las Vegas, and they absolutely knew it, but they didn't know what was in store from young Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells. Bill Belichick ran a very innovative at the time and a defense that you see all over the NFL today, using 2 D linemen, a group of linebackers, and extra DBs to combat the Bills' incredible pass attack that they had at the time. They were challenging them to run it, and surprisingly, the Bills did not fall for the challenge. They still tried to attack these linebackers and extra DBs, and it really didn't pay off for them much early in the game. And the Giants' offense wanted to combat the offense of the Bills also by running a very, very slow running attack. They converted some very crazy third downs to keep their drives alive, and they tried to stay on the field as long as they possibly could to keep that high-powered, fast-moving Bills offense on their toes and on the sidelines. Now, despite this innovative defense, both teams were still able to battle back and forth. Bills put up 2 touchdowns, a field goal, and the defense even added a safety. The Giants themselves were able to put up 20 points, and with 2 minutes and 16 seconds left on the clock, the Bills were poised to make their final drive. Now, they tried to keep going with this pass attack, but the 2 D linemen and extra DBs were really limiting them, and so Jim Kelly had to resort to his feet and also was handing it off to running back Thurman Thomas, who finished the game with 15 rushes for 135 yards, which I would just like to note is an incredible stat line for a running back in a Super Bowl that is just totally missed in the history of these games. And so the drive is capped off. They get into field goal range. They have a 48-yard field goal for Scott Norwood, 19-20, Super Bowl on the line, and I will leave the rest up to Jack Buck.
For the Bills, Norwood assumes the position. Lingner waits to snap it. We wait. There's a snap. There's a kick. It is up. It is no good. Norwood missed. 4 seconds.
And that was the heartbreaking finish to an incredible 1990 Bills season. But you would think that a fan base would take it a little harsh as the kicker that could have sealed it for him, could have gotten them their ring, but no, he was welcomed with open arms. They cheered for him, they called for him, and that's what Buffalo is all about. I also want to highlight some incredible facts about the Bills' 1990 season. Jim Kelly led the NFL and with the 101.2 passer rating. Thurman Thomas led the AFC in total yards from scrimmage and was second in the NFL behind Barry Sanders, and Bruce Smith finished as the defensive player of the year and set a Bills franchise record with 19 sacks. Having those three players on the same team is extremely memorable. It is iconic and it is forgotten, and that is what this podcast is all about, to remind you of those facts, to remind you of the history and the dominance that this team had in the 90s. God bless and go Bills. Don't forget to follow us on social media for more content, and follow along next week as we go into the 1991 season and continue to document the current Bills 2022 season as we get into Week 8. Thank you for listening, and again, God bless and go Bills.
The Bills make me wanna kick your heels up and